Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and thank you everybody for being here today. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome you to the meeting of the number 4 of the House Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates. The committee, as you're well aware, was supposed to be scheduled for meeting today from 3:30 to 4:30, but at this point in time, we're commencing at, according to my clock, 3:15 my time, which would be 4:15 your time. And to consider that it's future business, please note that this meeting is public. The committee will meet again on Wednesday, November 4th, 2020 from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. to hear the President of the Treasury Board and the TBS officials on the main estimates 2020-2021. The meeting will be a televised session as well. Pursuant to the motion adopted by the House on Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, the committee may continue to sit in a hybrid format. This means that members can participate either in person in the committee room or by video conference by Zoom. Most of us, well, we've all been on these committee meetings many times, and we do have some rules, and I suspect at this time you all know those rules. But if at any time someone questions whether I need to repeat them, really on the issue of just English, French in translation. And also, if you're going to speak, please wait until I recognize your name. Also making certain your mic's unmuted. In order to ensure social distancing in the committee room, if you need to speak privately with the clerk or the analysts during this meeting, please email him or them at the committee mailbox, and I appreciate you doing that. You should all have that. On Friday, the clerk sent out the text of report from the subcommittee on agenda and procedure. All the propositions in the report were agreed to by the members of the subcommittee. Now these propositions need to be approved by this committee, and so we're putting that forward to you today. Once the subcommittee is disposed of, then we can proceed with free to move to other motions if you wish. So I would ask you to if you would take a look at the report, the final report we had from the subcommittee. And I just wanted to bring a couple of things to your attention, and perhaps the subcommittee might want to address those, or the committee, should I say, because at this point the committee can add to what the subcommittee has put forward. In particular, in number 4, where the subcommittee final date was set for Sunday, November 22nd, 2020. That being a Sunday, it might be a little bit awkward for the PBO to respond to us and to the clerk in dealing with issues. So it might be worthwhile that the subcommittee either consider doing the Friday, which is the November 20th, or Monday, the November 23rd. Now I bring that to your attention because Ms. Vignola did point out, have that date in there, and I guess I would ask Ms. Vignola if that's a concern for her to make one of those changes.
Non, j'y vois vraiment aucun problème. Je vous remercie.
No, I don't see any problems with it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so then I'll leave it to the committee to decide whether they want either the Friday or the Monday, and perhaps someone can mention that. The second part I'd like to mention too is that under article points 5 and 6, when we look at these, we're asking for, we did not put in a timeline or a deadline for when witnesses should be presented, and I would ask, by getting those witnesses to us ASAP, where we would be able to set time frames with the clerks and the analysts to set things up. So again, I would ask the subcommittee to consider maybe giving it a week, so to the end of this week, for witnesses to be submitted, or consideration of that as well. With that said, I will open the floor to discussion on the subcommittee report.
Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Green would like to intervene.
Certainly, Mr. Green.
Thank you. And just as it relates to the date, my reading of it states that by Sunday gives us, gives the report the opportunity to come back in the preceding work week, so as not to have a need for an amendment. It reads that it be presented by that date. So I think that it allows the report to come back prior to the 22nd, if I read that correctly.
Certainly, I think it can be. I think just for when we notify the PBO, though, we'd like to give them a date to say maybe Friday, which would fit within this, and I'm okay with that. If people are okay, just want to make certain that we don't leave the PBO in a situation where they can't get a hold of somebody on the weekend, etc.
So then, Mr. Chair, perhaps the Monday gives them the extra time there to be able to come in and report back.
Am I seeing, not hearing anything further? Is that a
Madam,
consensus to have it?
Mr. Chair,
Okay,
Madame
sorry.
Vignola would like to intervene.
Certainly, Ms. Vignola.
Donc, bon,
So the 22nd is a Sunday. I hope that the parliamentary budget officer at least has his weekends off. So we should be asking for Friday, or Monday shouldn't make too much of a difference. So I'm tending towards Friday, because Monday, well, if he's not working the weekend, well, there won't be any work that's been done anyway. So I think Friday would be a good date. It's by that day, and from what I'm hearing through the grapevine, perhaps sometimes we get information through the grapevine, the report may actually be nearly completed. So even if we put it on the 20th, that should be enough time.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Monsieur Drouin would
Not
like to
seeing any
intervene,
hands
Mr.
up.
Chair.
Certainly.
Oui, merci beaucoup.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I agree with what Ms. Vignola has stated. We're okay with Friday as well, because if it's not done by Friday, it's not going to be done by Monday either. And I wouldn't want the parliamentary budget officer to have to work all weekend long if that were to have to happen. So we completely agree with Friday on our end.
Thank you. And any further discussion? Not seeing any, then we will make the change to from Sunday, November 22nd to the Friday, November 20th. As for the witnesses, is Friday comfortable for everybody to get that information, witnesses in by? Discussion on that?
Mr. Chair, Madame Vignola would like to intervene.
Certainly. Ms. Vignola?
étant donné que
Well, given that the motion on NUCTEC is a motion that had already been tabled, I believe, Mr. Macaulay this summer, the witness list should be ready both on the opposition side and the government side. And then the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, well, we had been looking at that over the summer as well. So the witness lists should also be ready. So Friday would be a reasonable date, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any further? I see Mr. Paul Hughes has his hand up. Mr. Paul Hughes?
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to let you know that everything is good on our end for those timeframes for both the deadlines and the report.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Paul Hughes.
Mr. Chair,
Any...
if I may, Mr. Chair, does the committee, if the committee agrees with Friday for the submission of the witness names for points 5 and 6, do they want to set a time? Noon, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock? I might suggest noon on Friday would work, but or 5 o'clock Friday would work either as well. it is helpful for us to have a time just so that it's if we say end of business, it lacks clarity. So in the past, we've done 5 o'clock. We could do that as well. Thank you.
Mr. Paul Hughes.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move then that we add 5 p.m. to the motion.
Any further discussion to the 5 p.m.? Seeing none, is there any further discussion that the committee would like to have on the subcommittee report? And I'm not seeing any hands up, so okay, with a show of hands, are we accepting the report from the subcommittee? And I see.
Mr. Chair, everyone in the room has raised their hands in agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, pass. Thank you very much. That's good. We're moving along. That's very good to see. I just want to maybe point out one other thing on that NUCTEC study. It did talk about it being started, and that being the motion that the committee had passed, that it be started by November 23rd, 2020, and wanting to make certain that the committee is comfortable that perhaps we could invite the departments at least to appear before that date, such that we can at least start and adhere to the motion which was presented and approved by the committee. Any discussion? Mr. Paul Hughes, it was your motion that you had put forward, and you had it set for it to start no later than November 23rd. With the
Monsieur le Président, merci. Comme discuté.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. So as we discussed during our subcommittee meeting, what we agreed on was that the priority would be on the meetings with ministers appearing for the main estimates, or the supplementaries must be. But as soon as ministers are not available in the time slots that the committee has, well, it's essential that we start moving forward with our studies. We also hope to have 2 OGGO meetings per week soon. We're waiting for news on that, and that would give us more time. Thank you.
Certainly, and thank you for that. And my concern of this is just to make certain if for some reason that we are delayed, I want to make certain that we have it in place such that we can at least invite some of the departments just so that we at least get one to adhere to what the motion is, and we're adhering to what was asked. And if you're comfortable with that, the committee, the clerks and analysts, we will set something up to make certain that something like that is set up. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I beg your pardon, Mr. Chair. Madame Vignola wanted to intervene on that point. Excuse me.
Certainly, Ms. Vignola. Sorry, I can't see your hand.
Rapidement.
Just quickly, when you are talking about NUCTEC, are we talking about the Minister of Innovation, or are we again talking about the Public Services Minister? Because if it's that second minister, well, she will be appearing for the budget. I'm okay with inviting her to appear twice, but it would be twice in a short period. So as Mr. Paulus said, if we can't have her appear twice in such a short time frame before the 23rd of November, then we would have our list of witnesses for the NUCTEC study, and those would be the witnesses we'd put forward.
Thank you for that. Actually, what we're looking at is just in case we aren't able to get the ministers there because of dealing with the estimates, we would have set up such that the departments could at least start the study before we head, and that's what I'm bringing to your attention right now.
Mr. Chair.
Hopefully that clear.
Mr. Drouin would like to intervene.
Certainly, Mr. Drouin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick point. So the previous session when we deal with COVID-19 witnesses, we sort of had a list. So I'm just wondering if through you, Mr. Chair, if the clerk's going to send us the list of who's asked to appear, because we are in a hybrid format and normally we'd get together and talk about them. But now that we have a hybrid format, if I'm correctly, and the clerk can correct me if I'm wrong, but last time you sent us a master list, here's who the Conservatives invited, here's what the Bloc invited, here's who we invited, just to cross-reference the if we have some of the same witnesses as well.
If I may clarify, Mr. Chair, if I may, Monsieur Drouin, c'est-à-dire vous voulez parler de la liste de témoins qui...
You mean you're talking about the witness list that was submitted during the last parliamentary session? Yeah, it's for the way we're going to move forward with point number 5 for the nuke tech study, for example, just looking at the list of witnesses that will be submitted. Mr. Chair, says Mr. Paulus.
Certainly, Mr. Paulus.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to remind my colleague, Mr. Drouin, that during our last meeting, we discussed the fact that the witness list would be proposed by all parties and that the clerk would provide the final list, the aggregated list, and that we wouldn't really have any discussion on that. I believe that's what we talked about, if you could confirm.
Yes, if I can, Mr. Chair, if I may intervene on this point. What is written in the subcommittee report with regard to nuke tech is that once the witnesses are submitted, that the chair, in conjunction with the clerk and analyst, would prepare a work plan for the consideration of the committee. And that's essentially, and I apologize, Monsieur Drouin, if I misunderstood your question. I think you're asking exactly that. Essentially, what we would do is take the list, and the analyst would what the analysts usually do in these situations is to try and group them thematically. And then we submit it back to the committee for consideration. The committee will know which parties submitted which names, and then can discuss which names that it wants to adopt from the work plan. If I remember correctly, this is how we proceeded with the COVID study in the summer. Thank you.
I guess that clarify things for you, Mr. Drouin? I think from my distance I can see your thumb up there. So the camera's way on the far end of the room, so okay. So with that, the floor is now open, and I believe I see Mr. Green, was your hand up?
Yes, sir.
Certainly, I believe that was you that said. Yep. So we'll open the floor with Mr. Green.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to begin my remarks by saying I think that I'm very glad and happy that we've been able to pass that and start to get to work on the reports and the studies. You'll note that I had sent out 2 notices of motion that broke out the omnibus nature of the previous work that I had presented. And I'm going to set that aside because I'm hoping that in testing the will of this committee today, we can go ahead and get back on track with the demand for documents that was put out some time ago, with a slight adjustment to dates and with taking into consideration feedback that I received at our scheduling meeting, our subcommittee meeting, to try to meet people halfway on stuff. So with your indulgence, I'd like to put the first motion, and I can reference it. If people would like for me to read it out, I'm happy to do that. Practice my French, perhaps. Perhaps not. So the first motion that I have is the COVID-related motion, Mr. Chair. It is the one that the committee sent for all briefing notes, memos, and emails related to the National Emergency Strategic Stockpile. And it is before you. It's been sent out. It was sent out on Friday. And I'll note for those that are keenly interested that I changed the date so that we're clear this is not the exact same motion. This is taking feedback from other members of the committee to extend it to August 31st, but then to kick it into December 1st to allow that month for staff to get whatever happened between my original ask and this one. Mr. Chair, through you, just to the committee to make sure that they're clear exactly about which motion I'm talking about, because I don't want putting this motion to cause any more confusion than perhaps it has in the past.
Mr. Chair, Mr.
Yes.
McKinnon has asked that Mr. Green could read the motion into the record, please.
I would be happy to.
Sure.
Thank you. This will be a great clip for my social media, so I appreciate Mr. McKinnon for the indulgence. That in the context of its study of the government's response to COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to Standing Order 1081A, the committee send for all briefing notes, memos, and emails from senior officials prepared for the Minister of Health, the President of the Public Health Agency of Canada, the Chief Medical Health Officer of Canada, and the Minister of Public Service and Procurement between 2010 and Monday, August 31st, 2020, regarding the stockpiling, management, disposal, and replenishment of medical equipment and supplies in the National Emergency Strategic Stockpile, that the committee received the information no later than Tuesday, December the 1st, 2020, that matters of cabinet confidence and national security be excluded from the request, and that any redactions to protect the privacy of Canadian citizens and permanent residents whose names and personal information may be included in the documents, as well as public servants who have been providing assistance on this matter, be made by the Office of the Law Clerk and Parliamentary Counsel of the House of Commons, that these documents be posted on the committee's webpage.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Do you want to add anything more to that before I open that up for discussion?
Yeah, just that, I appreciate the nature in which I tried to reintroduce all of this causing concern. We're now almost a full 2 months past our prorogation. And I think that, in the scheduling that we received, I'll remind folks that the original spirit of this motion was supported by this committee in the past, which provided the opportunity for us to hopefully get a good head start by staff on this. And I think that by kicking it into the beginning of December, it gives us an opportunity to receive the information, consider it, and perhaps find a way to respond if necessary in the weeks leading up to Christmas. What I don't want is a December 31st date that kicks this sometime into 2021. So I'm calling on the reasonableness of government to support what I think should be a clear and open and transparent, open by default process for government as it relates to the National Emergency Strategic Stockpile.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I have Mr. McKinnon and Ms. Vignola. So, Mr. McKinnon.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I would like to thank my colleague, Mr. Green, for his motion. I don't believe I gave the green light. Well, this is for me. The green light for this motion. On the contrary, I believe that this motion will give more work to people on which we're counting right now. People who are working on procurement in PPE and others. These people will have to answer to different motions for the production of documents, motions that were adopted by the House of Commons. The members of the opposition voted for these motions, voted in favor of these motions. So motions for the production of documents were adopted at other committees. They are very similar to this motion. And the opposition members voted in favor of these motions. But I believe that our duty, my duty as a parliamentary secretary, and my duty as a member, as an MP of the government, my duty is to denounce this fishing expedition when it comes to these production of documents motions. It's like we're looking for problems where there are not necessarily problems. I will explain myself. This National Emergency Strategic Stockpile is there to help provinces. This stockpile
emergency stockpile is there to serve provinces and territories if there is a pandemic or a health emergency. It is managed and it is used if necessary. But this management, the orders are done by the Public Health Agency of Canada. So if we should do a study on this strategic stockpile, this study should be made at the Health Committee. The Health Committee is looking at what's going on at the Health Department. And such a production of documents is being thought out in the motion that was adopted by the House of Commons. So I'm wondering, I'm asking myself questions actually, because PSPC, we are looking at this department, at this committee. So the role of PSPC is to supply a department when a request is made. So if a department needs service, some sort of equipment, and if the purchasing power for this material or for this service is not given to the department, so if the supply must be done by the central agency, which is PSPC, well, it will be done. The best practices will be used. And it is the department that will ask for what it needs. And then what is done with these services and with this material, well, it is the department or the agency that will decide. It's not PSPC who will decide how that material will be used. So we have to explain this quite regularly, and I don't know why. If the transport department wants to acquire something, some sort of equipment, and if this department cannot buy it, well, it will go through us, I mean PSPC. But then what will be done with that equipment once the department will deliver that equipment? Well, it's the transport department that will decide. The transport department will accept this equipment. It will be part of its inventory and it will use it. It will be, the life cycle will be managed by this department.
And in the end, it will remove it from its inventory list and start the cycle all over again. This is what departments do with their purchases, their procurement. And it's the same thing for the Public Health Agency of Canada. Therefore, I'm really stumped. I fail to see why Mr. Green is insisting on wanting to impose this burden, and it's a sizable burden because his motion goes back over several years, covers a long period of time, and this will be a heavy burden for the very same officials. There aren't thousands of them. It's the same employees who will have this duty imposed upon them by this committee, that of producing documents, of reviewing them, of applying the rules governing intellectual property, confidentiality, cabinet secrecy, etc. They'll have to apply all of these principles. And I fail to understand this phenomenon. Why? Given that the Health Committee and the Department of Health will be answering the same questions. And the Department of Public Service and Procurement will be obligated to do the same thing by virtue of the various motions adopted in the House or by other committees. So it won't surprise you to hear that I'm opposed to this motion. We're in a pandemic here. To be very cut and dried, this isn't helping. And this isn't an exercise that we can be delighted with, given that we would be imposing this workload on our senior officials, on people who carry out their duties at present in an exemplary fashion. They're being sought after. They're looking for protective equipment throughout the world. They're managing logistics. They're managing the acquisition of vaccines. They're planning all of the logistics involved in this for PPE, etc. They're working with departments like the Health Department, the Public Health Agency, Innovation, Science and Economic Development to create a domestic supply. And colleagues of all parties here, this is exactly what you would want them to be doing those very things, the things I've just enumerated. So after their day that starts very early in the morning and that ends in the evening and that oftentimes covers weekends as well, we're going to impose an even greater burden on them. That of sifting through archives, looking for documents that won't be helping us at all as far as drawing lessons that we could apply today with a view to managing this pandemic, this crisis. So in a way, this is a plea I'm making, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of these civil servants, these public servants, that this requirement not be imposed upon them. We know that over time, there will be an in-depth study of all of the aspects of the management of the pandemic by Canada, as will be the case most certainly in all provinces and in every country in the world. Everyone will have questions. Everyone will want to carry out reviews. Everyone will want to draw best practices and lessons. I think it's universal. It's not one party or another's simple fancy as far as drawing lessons is concerned, and there will certainly be lessons to be drawn from our experience. That being said, Mr. Chairman, this is a plea that I'm delivering here and that I'm making to Mr. Green to not require of our officials that they prioritize this type of exercise rather than prioritizing the safety and security and the protection of the health of Canadians. That's what I wanted to say about this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. I have, just so everyone is aware, I have Ms. Vignola next, then Mr. Drouin, then Mr. Green, then Mr. McCauley, and then Mr. Kuzmierczuk. Ms. Vignola?
Certes.
Clearly, with regard to one point, my colleague is right. It's 10 years of work, of stockpiling and management that are to be analyzed. And the reason for this is very simple. It is that we've seen millions of masks thrown out, discarded, because the renewal process hadn't been adequate. Clearly, the Department of Health has its own decisions to make in this area. But with regard to supply, would it not be appropriate that we verify the validity of the processes in place? This for the very safety of Canadians, Quebecers. It's not a matter of waiting till after the pandemic to say, oh my God, we should have done this, that, or the other thing. We're in it. We have to just step back. It's a minuscule step to take just to verify if the process is appropriate, if we can improve upon it, if we can ensure everyone's safety quickly, so that if we need material equipment that is stockpiled, that we have the assurance that this equipment is not going to be worn out. We're not talking about a long period of time. We're talking about 5 years. So yes, to my view, it would be appropriate for everyone that we analyze these processes. And if the role of our committee is that, it fits. If the special committee had been created, if the opposition motion had been accepted by the government, there wouldn't be 3 or 4 committees dealing with the same issue via various angles. There would be a single committee that would analyze the matter from all angles, and we wouldn't be here discussing this as we're doing so now. Not that it bothers me. On the contrary, it's important to do this work. But why not concentrate our efforts? And the suggestion was refused. Yes, we have good lessons to be learned, but the time to learn these lessons won't be after the pandemic. The worst we could do is do this afterwards. Let's start right away by just stepping back, looking a little bit in the rearview mirror. And given that the motion was tabled in the summer, this work is already underway. Far from me any idea of overloading the researchers and the officials who would be charged with looking through the archives. That's not my intention. And allow me to speak for Mr. Green. I don't think it's his intention either. The point here is to get the truth and to improve upon the process for the good of all. So there you have it. That's what I had to say about this matter.
Mr. Drouin.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I'll perhaps come back to what I heard Ms. Vignola say. It is perhaps true that the motion proper was appropriate this summer when the provinces, the province of Quebec and all of Canada, were not yet in a second wave. And now we're in this second wave. And what I'd like to hear from the opposition is some cooperation as to the committees they want to sit on to study these issues. And we have a responsibility as the Committee of Government Operations. We're responsible for a Treasury Board and for procurement. And this motion deals with the Public Health Agency of Canada and the Department of Health. The procurement service, my colleague, Mr. McKinnon, mentioned this. Well, it is responsible for supply, whether it's PPE or other things, but only once the Public Health Agency has said, yes, we need this equipment. And this is why we're somewhat reticent with regard to supporting this motion, because for simple matter of principle, similar language was put forward last week, and Mr. Green, my colleague, voted in favor of that. So he's already voted in favor of that motion. The party voted against because we understand to what extent the people who will be charged with producing this information, and many of them live in my riding, well, we're going to be telling them, thank you very much. You helped us get through the first wave, but we're going to give you more to do now, despite the fact we're in a second wave. And this summer, the pandemic, it seems that it had stalled somewhat. We knew the second wave was coming, and now the opposition is choosing to ask for information, and I understand. I understand it's their duty. They must do this. I understand fully. However, my question is this. With a second wave, when the crisis isn't over, in the midst of a pandemic, is this really the right time to ask for a massive audit of all of this documentation? And it's a question. I've never seen an organization, company carry out an audit in the midst of their financial year. They'll have lots of time to ask for this documentation. And the request is already underway because the motion in the House was passed. And because of the opposition parties, we're going to see officials, people working for us, working very, very hard. They're working in Hull, Elmer, and Gatineau. They belong to the Public Health Agency and the Department of Health. They're going to have to stop everything that they're doing because they're being asked to carry out an audit in the midst of a crisis. I've never seen this, Mr. Chairman. I respect the committee. I respected the decision of the House, and my intention is not to just go on and on about this. I simply would come back to what was stated last week with regard to the Calgary North Hills motion. You heard talk of various stakeholders who were worried about the way in which the motion passed and the House was drafted. And you're going to have to bear the brunt of this and bear the weight of it. And I hope you're going to be able to explain this back home in your writings. Mr. Green says that he likes to use social media, but it's up to him now to defend why he's asking this, knowing that this information has already been requested at the House and the Health Committee will be receiving this very same information. And I'm going to stop there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drouin. And Mr. Green is next. Mr. McCauley after Mr. Green, then Mr. Kazmierczuk, and then Mr. Johari.
This is good. This is good, Mr. Chair. In conflict resolution, you want to escalate the issues to really get at the heart of the matter. And I feel like that's exactly what we're doing. In previous filibusters, this Liberal government made an intent that we was the sticking point, that they didn't want to be held accountable for the we scandal. Okay, we have other committees working on we, and I can appreciate why a focused effort on that. I know other members of this committee have been on ethics and will continue to go down that rabbit hole. That's fine. I have heard in the comments, Mr. Chair, this insinuation that I'm playing a game of Go Fish. And I can share with you that the beautiful thing, in fact, and I talked about this the last time, and it's almost as if my friends from the Liberal Party, from the government, have completely, have a course of amnesia, that somehow they think that these conversations that we've had in the past are simply forgotten. But the eye in the sky doesn't lie, Mr. Chair. And yes, this will make for good social media content because of all the bluster that came out of government, the pleas that came, that they are absolutely not going to support this. How dare we? How could we hold this government accountable? Well, I would like to read into the record, Mr. Chair, that in fact, in a more reasonable time, perhaps a less partisan time, a time when some of my colleagues would have actually been interested in making sure that we do hold government accountable in a way that supersedes our partisan nature. This motion passed, Mr. Chair. This motion passed unanimously. So for all the pearl clutching that's happening in this committee, the question was put on the motion as amended, and the amendment came from my friends from the Liberal side, from government. I was negotiating good faith with them. We accepted the amendment, and I repeat, yeas, in favor, Zahid Abdulatif, Kelly Block, Francis Drouin, Matthew Green, Majid Johari, Ira Kazmierczuk, Stephen McKinnon, Kelly McCauley, Julie Fignolia, and Patrick Weiler. Unanimous to get the demand for documents up into the date that I've only just amended slightly. This work was set to come back to a committee a week after this Liberal government cut and rug and ran on a prorogation that I thought was really centered on we. And now what I'm getting very clear at is that it's not just about we. It's about the lack of ability to be accountable for anything, Mr. Chair. Here are the facts. The facts are that we had 11 national emergency strategic warehouses on 9 locations. 11. The fact is that sometime in last year, in the lead up to this pandemic, a decision was made to dispose of critical life-saving PPEs, N95 masks, gowns, gloves in the millions. The only reason why we know about that is because the person who was supposed to throw them out didn't get the contract, went down and took some pictures. The only reason why we even have any idea about this in terms of open by default Liberal government. So what did that tell us? Well, it led us to understand and to discover that in fact, out of the 11 locations, this Liberal government made a decision to close down 3 on the lead up to COVID. 3 critical national emergency strategic stockpile locations, housing and storing millions of PPEs that they let expire. Now, I thought I was being a mensch by making it 10 years. Here's why. Because it's been my experience as a New Democrat that the Liberals and Conservatives spend all their time pointing the finger at one another. So I said, you know what? Let the truth shine through. Let's make it 10 years to ensure that both parties would be, I don't want to say exposed, but would be held accountable for the state of the absolute incompetence and mismanagement of the National Emergency Strategic Stockpile. 2 million critical PPEs, N95 masks were thrown out of the Regina location. There are 2 remaining locations of critical PPEs that were shuttered. We have no idea how many were thrown out then. This is also what we know. We also know it to be true that in the procurement side, which, by the way, this committee is responsible, out of the 11 million initial PPEs that were brought in on the N95s, something like 9 million were unusable. Again, an incompetent mismanagement of procurement. I warned at that time that we were heading into a second wave, and we better damn well be sure that we made sure that the National Emergency Strategic Stockpile was going to be replenished and was going to be managed in a meaningful way. And here we are. Unanimous consent from the Liberal side. All of them supported this in the first wave because I believe at that point in time, they understood how critically important it was to get to the truth. So my question is, what did they find out? What did the parliamentary secretary have access to and information? Because recall, this report should have been mostly done. Mostly done. So all this recent pearl clutching about burdening our staff, this work has been done. I'm only asking for a few months more and giving them an extra month to do it. And it can't, these two things can't simultaneously be true. We can't both be burdening staff and have all the other committees asking them the same questions. Because here's why, Mr. Chair. Because if all the other committees are asking the same questions, then this work should already be done and it should be no problem reporting to this committee. So, you know, I tried to be conciliatory in my opening remarks. I tried to move beyond this absolute asinine filibuster, which we're probably going to sit in here now to 8:30, 9 o'clock. But I'll put on the record right now, Mr. Chair, I'm here on my own. My family's back home. I don't have to get back for bedtime now. So I'm ready to dig in on this because we amended these motions in a reasonable, good faith way, a motion that was unanimously passed. Unanimously. And here's the thing. There may have been a time, Mr. Chair, when people could say things in one committee and it would be buried in the Hansard and people would forget about it. But we are savvy now, Mr. Chair, in opposition. We are savvy. I have the ability to pull the quotes from the last time we moved this motion, clip it from Parleview and put it up almost side by side to the things that are being said now. So Canadians can see just how the congruency in leadership and accountability is missing. That's the truth. And I know it behooves the parliamentary secretary to come here and fight the good fight with the whips on the line and everybody else. but people are watching and they're not buying it anymore. This isn't about all the other excuses they had about all the other things we listed. I moved beyond that. All I want is a very simple acknowledgement that what was supported prior to prorogation, that was in the good and welfare of this committee to find oversight and to find some kind of accountability of this government in this absolutely historic, unprecedented, plague, pandemic. And yet they don't want any accountability. It's as though it's their birthright to come in here and govern on majorities and shut down information, critical information that Canadians deserve to know. And I don't know who's watching this tonight, Mr. Chair, but I can tell you this, I am very comfortable in this seat. And I will continue to dig for the truth. We have 3 roles in opposition, despite what our Liberal friends would have us believe in government. That rolling over and just doing whatever they want is not our job, actually. That we need to prod this government to do the right thing at every step along the way. We need to be a check and balance to this government's unprecedented expenditures and, quite frankly, all the missteps that are related to allegations of corruption. And third is to be the government in waiting. That's the role of opposition. So this idea that somehow in this committee, we're just going to hold hands and just do whatever the Liberals want to do, and if not, we're just going to bog this down, fine. You know what? I got some great books here, for reference. Some excellent books on getting to the heart of matters and demanding documents. And we'll just continue to do that. And it's not bogging down the process because this is work that should have already been done. So there's a couple of things that have come from this. One, it's not we. It's not the we scandal. I've set that aside. That excuse is off the table. 2, this should have already been done, substantially completed way back when. 3, they unanimously voted on this, to recap. 4, this is the new normal, whether we like it or not. And for them to continue to move the goalpost on the National Emergency Strategic Stockpile, somebody made decisions to throw that stuff out. And if I'm to understand correctly, it might even be the case that that person's not even there anymore. Why is that? These are questions we deserve to know. And I'm just going to put folks on notice. This isn't going away. This isn't something you can wish away. We will get to the bottom of this at some point. And let's just hope it's before the government decides to slink back to the government general for the call of the next snap election or whatever else it is they got up their sleeves.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Mr. McCauley.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank Mr. Green and Ms. Vinolas for some very good points. Watching my Liberal colleagues talk about this, it's kind of like Queen Gertrude with "The lady doth protest too much," methinks from Shakespeare. There's a couple of things I want to bring up. It's quite funny to hear the Liberal side talk about, there's so many other places, so many other committees studying this. I want to harken back to the 42nd Parliament, where we had 5 different committees studying greening the government, and the Liberal majority on this committee insisted that we needed to have another one. Despite so many overarching concerns we needed to look at, they forced through another one. It's funny they would justify 5 or 6 overlapping committees at one time, but now they're in abject opposition to doing the same. And I want to bring in a couple of other points. We hear again and again from the government side, pandemic. We can't do anything, a pandemic. Just last week, we saw Kevin Lamoureux justify the corruption because of a pandemic. We can't look at the ethics because we're in a pandemic. And now we're hearing from the Liberals, we can't look at incompetence that has hurt Canadians. Blatant incompetence that has punished Canadians because of a pandemic. But we have to do it for the safety of the public service. We can't bring them in and force them to work. We can't take them away from needed stuff. As if it's Patty Hager herself sitting there flipping through her emails to find this information. There's over 120,000 public servants working in Ottawa. I'm sure we can find the resources to get this information. I was looking at the PBO study on the 699. You know how many people from Public Health Agency are taking the 699, which is the paid time off without work? 6 in the entire department are not available for work. 6 out of the entire department. We have the people, we have the resources to get this done. The public accounts are coming out next month. We have all the resources to comb through all the government spending records to publish the public accounts safely. The other general work is still getting done safely. We can get this stuff done safely as well. We should look at this. We have the resources. There's no reason in the world why we can't get this done. I'm with Mr. Green. This is not an issue that's going to go away. So we either sit here and allow the will of the committee to proceed, or we get into a point where every single meeting is just going to be Liberals filibustering, blocking our ability to help Canadians. I want to thank Mr. Green for being so forceful on this, Ms. Vinola for her remarks, and I would just say to my Liberal colleagues, let this go ahead as we agreed before prorogation. A lot of it's probably already done. Let's get the work done. We have the assets. We have the ability to easily get this done. We owe it to Canadians, so we do not have a repeat of this down the road, whether it's in 1 month or 1 year or 2 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. Mr. Kazmierczak. And then after Mr. Kazmierczak, we have Mr. Johari and Ms. Vignola.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to just start off by picking up on a comment that Mr. Green had made very early on in his comments. And I think, Mr. Chair, I think you made the same comments as well about we got up to a really good start at the beginning of this committee meeting, and there seemed to be just a really good spirit of collaboration. And right off the get-go, we passed a motion that had 6 items on it, and we passed that unanimously. And I think it demonstrates our commitment to working together on this committee to get real work done. I know that my colleague, Mr. Green, also in a previous meetings put forward. Well, what I can say is that you know, I know that we are prepared. There's 12 motions on the table. We are prepared to support 12 of the 13 motions, and so there really is on our part a real willingness to work together, to collaborate, and to get important work done in this committee. But the part where you're going to see pushback from me is and I've been clear pretty much since the beginning of this committee's work, is where you're going to see pushback from me is where I see proliferation, motions that are asking for the proliferation of committees, for the production of papers, and the duplication of work without a clear and well-defined value add. And that's where you're going to see me push back. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves. I'm ready to support motions, whether it's by colleagues on this side of the aisle or my esteemed colleagues on the other side of the aisle. But I really do raise, the motions have to meet a certain standard. And where you're going to see me push back is, again, when I see proliferation of committees and production papers and duplication of work, and I don't see a clear value add. And I guess where maybe I differ a little bit in the approach from my colleagues is I do believe that we are in a crisis. I do believe that it's the greatest health and economic crisis that we faced in a country, period. And I do believe with every fiber of my being that this requires an all hands on deck approach, and it requires that we are laser focused. And it requires us to make choices. Where do we want our attention to be focused? And my colleague had mentioned that there's hundreds of thousands of public servants in the government, and that it's okay if just a few of them, focus their attention on getting emails and fetching emails and documents from 10 years ago. My argument is quite the opposite. We need every single pair of eyes, hands, brains. We need all that human capital, all that resources, all that attention focused on solving this issue, addressing this issue, and helping Canadians and helping our country get through this crisis. We need every single, all hands on deck, focused on this. And so I will create, I just want my colleagues to know, for me, there is a really high standard that I set, a high bar in terms of what motions will pass. And specifically based on, again, where do we need to put our resources? We had, on this particular issue, we had members of PHAC and members of other government agencies in front of this committee in May, answering many of these very questions. May 15th was actually when we had a meeting on this exact issue, on the National Emergency Strategic Stockpile. May 15th is when we had a meeting on this. And we had folks, officials, vice presidents, executive directors from PHAC and Public Works. And I remember at that meeting, I remember Mr. Green, one of the points that he made, which stuck with me, is when he said that highlighted the fact that a Senate committee in 2008, underscored and highlighted and concluded that the previous Conservative government had underfunded, severely underfunded, and mismanaged the NES. And as much as I'd love to spend, as much as I'd love to read, emails and documentations and spend hours talking about how the Conservative government mismanaged the National Emergency Strategic Stockpile, let's save that for another day. And let's focus on the work that is in front of us. Let's focus on the crisis that is at hand. And enough of the political stuff. We need to focus on this crisis, and we need full attention. We can't afford to lose even a handful of public servants being distracted from the work that they need to do. What I will highlight in Mr. Green's testimony, when we had the officials here in May, what I will highlight, because I remember I really appreciated this, is when he asked the officials, what are we doing now to ensure proper supplies? What's the plan for the next, and at the time, keep in mind, this was in May, and Mr. Green was asking then some very fine questions. What are we doing to prepare for the next wave, for the second wave? Very prescient. And so again, I would rather us, because other committees are looking at this work and whatnot, I would rather us, rather than focus on what happened the last 10 years, I would rather us focus our attention on what are we doing now and what are we doing next. That would be a much more appropriate use of our time and our resources. And so I wanted to just go on the record here simply to state where I have trouble with this particular motion. It's just simply, I want to make sure that all of our resources and attention are focused on the crisis at hand. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzmirchuk. Mr. Johari, and then Ms. Vignola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had the opportunity, I'm one of the lucky ones who was here when we initially passed this motion, and I'm blessed that I'm here to actually talk on this new motion. As Ms. Vignola mentioned, this is a great opportunity for us to look at the process. But the process is not just the process that happened as a result of COVID-19. When we look at from a strategic pile of PPE and inventory, there are many dimensions to when you look at an inventory management, and you look at from how much of the stock you need. How do you replenish it? How do you decide what type of stock do you need? what is the reorder point, where the logistic, where the locations you're going to basically stockpile, and what is the mechanism for receiving orders from the provinces, and how do you determine the priority, because these stockpiles are strategic stockpiles. They're not there to satisfy all the demands. So there are many aspects to evaluating this. And to the extent that some of the documents that might be available during this short period, especially during the COVID-19, how much of it was disposed, I don't think these documents is actually going to shed a complete light into how did the consolidation of these centers came about? Who made that decisions? How did we decide on what type of stockpile do we need? What combination do we need? Surgical mask, or do we need level 3 mask, or do we need gloves? Do we need? So all those decisions needed to be made. I'm not sure whether we have that data, and also other committees and the health committee and the motion that was passed in the House is generating these documents. So when you look at the end-to-end process, I don't think the end-to-end process is only over the 3 months. It's been over many, many years that these decisions is made. And we need to wait until those documents are tabled for us to be able to look to what extent those documents that's being generated, or as said, are near ready to be handed in to the other committees, are in a position to be able to answer some of these key questions. Because the level of the stockpile is only one element. The decision making, how do we monitor it? How do we control it? And all of those may or may not be answered in the documents that's being prepared. So my suggestion is wait for these documents to be the document that's being asked by other committees to be tabled. Let's review those documents and then ask the fundamental question that everybody's asking us from all sides of the House, whether it's the Conservatives, the NDP, the Bloc, the Liberal, the Green, and Independents we are all asking the same questions. And the fundamental question is, how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? So let's see what was the process that followed and see where we can make those improvements. We also need to make sure that we ask for documents in an appropriate time frame. Right now, we are in the middle of wave 2. So the question that's being asked, or the question that we are trying to get the answer, are most probably being addressed right now, because we are going through wave 2, and we are saying now, well, based on wave 1, we have some ideas of what PPEs do we need. And based on the surges in various provinces, we also need to look at, which provinces, which territories, and based on the need from various regions as the cases are going up, how do we look at strategizing, or how do we look at prioritizing where these supplies are going to go? So some of the answers that they may come in these reports are actually may or may not be relevant to what we are doing right now, because we are learning, and we are learning that every day. There are provinces and territories that we thought we had beaten COVID, and now we are moving into lockdown situations. So the prioritization now is going to change. The strategic stockpile is going to change. The decision making is going to change. So let's focus on making sure that we use the lesson learned from first wave and address the immediate need, which is the second wave, making sure that all the organizations that needed to benefit from these stockpiles get the support that they need. And hopefully when this thing is over, this is a great motion to study, because we have the previous 10 years, we have the wave 1, we have wave 2, and hopefully we'll beat this on wave 2, so we don't have to go to wave 3. But we could see what was the benchmark, how did we do, and how did we react. And that's going to be a much better time for us to be able to leverage all the lesson learned and also optimize the generation of all of these documents. Because the fact that there's only 6 members of the public health right now are on 699, that itself, it tells you how busy they are. Why are they busy? Because they're focusing on the people. They're focusing on you, me. They're focusing on our community. They're focusing on elders. They're focusing on children at school. And they're making sure that they do everything in their power to make sure that those supplies are ready. So I am, to a large extent, highlighting the areas that all the members have talked about that I think it's important to me and it's important to my constituents, whether it's the process, whether it's the stockpile, whether it's the oversight, whether it's the history, whether it's how we managed it during wave 1, how we are going to manage during wave 2. Therefore, my ask and my recommendation is, let's keep the focus on Canadian and let's make sure that the stockpiles that we have, the vaccine, whether it's the gowns or the mask that we've acquired, the internal capacity that we have built, are clearly focused on getting those to the Canadian, partnering with other departments, whether it's PHAC working with PSPC or whether it's with ISAD. That makes sure that, hey, look, we do the investment. Let's focus on those as the government number 1 business, and as our committee, we have 6 great motions, and I'm looking forward to the next motion, actually, that Mr. Green is going to put to debate on that one. So, Mr. Chair, thank you very much for the time, and I would ask all members to consider prioritizing the focus on Canadian rather than production of document. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johari. And I notice your mustache. Are you growing that for Movember?
Yes, Mr. Chair. As you know, I had a statement in the House that I said that it is Movember, and grow a mo and support a bro. So I'm hoping that I can't see that far, but I'm hoping that you're growing a mo as well. But thank you very much for noticing, sir. Thank you very much.
Ms. Vignola.
I will be brief. Listen, yes, the bar is high, and it must always be high when the idea is to refer to a motion, to discuss a motion. It's not just when the waters are calm that the bar has to be high. It's at all times. I'm hearing my colleagues say that similar motions were put forward in other committees. And I'm trying to understand, why is it that we should reproduce the documents a second, third, fourth time if they've already been produced a first time in committee? Couldn't we just forward the documents elsewhere? And if it's not possible, why? There's a process problem. And last thing, before calling for a vote, if that's my role, I have a little question. Why are we here? Are we here to create lovely videos for our YouTube or Facebook pages? No, we're here for Canadians, for the people. Yes, we're in the midst of a second wave. Yes, now's the time to get supplies and to ensure that the errors of the past don't come back yet again. And the time has come once again to ensure even more that people are well protected. It's not the time for TikTok, YouTube, Facebook clips, etc. We're here for the people. We're here not to make out of context statements with a view to an election that the people don't want. So if it's possible, I would ask for a vote, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Johari. And I'm looking around and I do not see any more hands up for debate. Therefore, I would follow through with the question. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question is on the motion by Mr. Green in his name. I will call the roll now. Monsieur Drouin.
Contre.
Mr. Johari.
Oppose.
Mr. Kusmirchek.
Opposed.
Mr. McKinnon.
Contre.
Mr. Weiler.
Against.
Mr. Lloyd.
In favor.
Mr. McCauley.
In favor, thank you.
Monsieur Paulus.
Oui.
Madame Vignola.
Oui.
Mr. Green.
Yes, support.
Mr. Chair, the results are 5 yeas, 5 nays. It'll be incumbent upon you to exercise your casting vote.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and I vote yes.
Therefore, thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is adopted. I leave I cede la parole to you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. It is now, I'm just looking at the clock, it is basically 5:30 at this point in time. And I guess, Mr. Green, did you wish to continue with your motion?
I would. My concern is if I don't, I might not find another time for it, but I'll dispense with any of my comments. It is before you. And I could read it out if it is of the good and welfare, and we could go around the circle again, but I would like to, save this committee as much time as we can now on the back end.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. McKinnon has asked that Mr. Green read the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Green, would you read the motion, please?
Happy to. That in context of the study of the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to Standing Order 108-1A, the committee sent for documents from Public Service and Procurement, PSPC, containing the following disaggregated data related to businesses owned by underrepresented groups, Black, Indigenous, women, and persons with disabilities, who have engaged with PSPC with regard to the federal government's response to COVID-19. A, how many companies from underrepresented groups have secured contracts with PSPC? 2, the value of these contracts. 3, the number of businesses from underrepresented groups screened and approved as credited vendors. 4, the number and value of set-aside contracts for these businesses. 5, the number of subcontracts entered into. B, that the committee send for all papers and records in unredacted form from the Employment and Social Development Canada related to the Federal Contractors Program, and in particular, 1, all current signed agreements to implement employment equity agreements. 2, the most current list of contractors covered by said agreements. 3, the most current compliance documentation furnished by each contract covered by an agreement, including the goal-setting report, achievement table, workforce analysis, revised goals for remaining gaps in representation, and explanatory material. 4, the most current documentation of ESDC's compliance assessment for each contractor covered by an agreement. 5, the most recent limited eligibility to bid list. 6, all documentation filed in an appeal of a finding of non-compliance by a contractor to the minister. 7, all documentation connected to an independent review of appeal. 8, any documentation internal to ESDC assessing or evaluating the federal contractors program, and that the committee receive these documents in papers and records no later than Tuesday, December 1st, and that all departments tasked with gathering and releasing the following documents, do their assessment and vetting as would be done through the access of information process, and that these documents be posted to the committee's website.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I see Mr. Green, you had indicated that you're comfortable with just presenting the motion and trying to further time. Thank you. I see Mr. Kazmierczuk, your hand is up.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm glad to see that my colleague from Hamilton is seated because this is gonna blow him away. I love this. I love where the member is going with this. I really do. I think that this is, for me, this is exactly why I love being on this committee. This is important work, and this is the type of work where I am just excited to roll my sleeves up and to support, because this is important. This is it, and so I really commend him for bringing this very thoughtful motion forward. This aligns really well with what is the focus of this government in terms of promoting diversity and inclusion. And you look at, for example, the Black Entrepreneurship Program that was announced recently, that's going to be coming online, and that's $220 million that's going to be going towards that. And you look at the fact that part of that funding is going to be going towards the establishment of a Black Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, which is going to collect data, which is going to collect some important information and data about the barriers and the opportunities that are facing Black entrepreneurs in Canada. You look at the fact that the government put forward a women entrepreneurship strategy, the first ever, $5 billion. And you look at the fact that the government has indicated it wants to accelerate the women entrepreneurship strategy in its throne speech, because this is an important part, not only of the prosperity of our country, but the economic recovery of our country. And you look at in April, when our government made an announcement to provide $306 million to Indigenous businesses as well, because we know how important Indigenous businesses are to the prosperity of this community. It's one of the largest in terms of entrepreneurship. It is the largest group of entrepreneurs, or fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in our country, and we know that they need support not just during the pandemic but after. And so I love where my colleague from Hamilton is going with this, and I will be supporting this. But I want to know whether my colleague would be interested in going further, because I think that we need to go further. This is timely. This is absolutely timely. And so I wanted to know whether Mr. Green, my honorable colleague, would be interested in working with me to go further. And so I would propose an amendment to this motion. And if it's okay, Chair, I'd like to put forward or read that amendment, if that's possible.
Certainly.
So I would put forward, to build upon what Mr. Green has brought forward to this committee, that an amendment, a friendly amendment, I hope, that the committee conduct a minimum of 6 meetings study on businesses owned by underrepresented groups, Black, Indigenous, women, and persons with disabilities, and their ability to procure from the Government of Canada before and during COVID-19, and that the committee report its findings to the House by May 30th of 2021. And again, I do believe that procurement is a critical aspect of entrepreneurship and the success of these businesses in Canada. And I believe that the time is now to study that and bring witnesses forward. So that is the friendly amendment that I propose in the spirit of collaboration.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzmierczak. Do you have that in both languages?
I just put that forward at the moment, but I can get that to you very quickly.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Clerk, do we need those?
we don't need the amendment in both official languages. However, may I ask that we suspend briefly so I can call you on the phone?
Certainly. We will take a 5-minute suspension and be back in 5 minutes. Mr. McCauley, I think, is away from his chair right now. So if we just hold on for, if you don't mind, just for a little bit. I see Mr. McCauley's not there, and we'll just hold for a sec. I did say 5 minutes, and Saskatchewan clocks are a little bit faster than the rest of the country, apparently. Just trying to.
Mr. Chair, could you, what was the, or actually, Mr. Green, what was the, or sorry, Mr. Kamirchuk, what was the date that you had for your amendment? Do you mind repeating that?
Yes, of course. So that would be May 30th, 2021. Yeah, no later than May 30th, 2021.
Yeah. If I'll go ahead and just chat, if you don't mind. Again, I want to thank Mr. Green for bringing forward this originally. And certainly, I'd love to dig into this more. My biggest concern, I want to make sure we add enough teeth to this. The reason is for those who were with us in the 42nd, of course, we studied SME procurement with Indigenous, and we heard again and again, every single witness we had from Indigenous Métis community came forward and said that the government was not following its own laws on procurement, how PSPC, INAC was a mess, and that not one of them actually was helpful or followed the laws. And then we had the bureaucrats and the government show up, throwing their shoulders out. They were patting themselves on the back so hard. And then we brought this actually up in committee repeatedly, how here we have the people who are supposed to be serving saying it's not working. And yet, again, the witnesses from ADMs and that from PSPC, INAC and the others thought everything was perfect and were tripping over themselves to compliment themselves with a great job they were doing. Complete disconnect. We tabled a report on this, and since that time, not one action has been taken on that report. So I applaud you, Mr. Kamirchuk, for bringing this forward, and Mr. Green. And we don't have to do it today, but I really think we need to build some teeth into this, that we're going to be spending this time. Like here it is, I mean, the Liberals have been in power for 5 years and have done nothing to address this. It's rather shocking. We did a greening government that was duplicated by 5 other committees that seemed more important than this. But we actually did a study previously, but nothing's been done.
Mr. McCauley, I hate to interrupt you.
I hope that we would actually add some teeth to this. And I think
Mr.
we can all support the motion and the amendment.
Thank you for that, Mr. McCauley. And I think we will end the suspension and we'll bring the committee back and into order. Mr. Kamirchuk, thank you very much for your presentation or your amendment. I'm going to ask you to read it one more time, if you would, for me, please. I just would like to hear it one more time, if I could.
Okay, great. And I could read it in French as well too, as I have it.
No.
Okay. Yes. Okay. No problem. No problem. I'll read it in English. I'll read it slowly, just so interpretation can also can make sure that they can do their work as well. So, that pursuant to Standing Order 108, the committee conduct at minimum 6 meeting study on businesses owned by underrepresented groups Black, Indigenous, women, and persons with disabilities, and their ability to procure from the Government of Canada before and during COVID-19, and that the committee reports its findings to the House by May 30th, 2021.
Okay. Thank you for that, and I appreciate that. And as I look at this, it appears to me that you're, and I think it sounds like you've got some consensus around. However, you're actually adding to a document that's already, or a motion that's already looking into documents, and would alter that motion completely from what I can see. And so I'm thinking that it is outside the scope of the motion being presented by Mr. Green at this point in time. And perhaps it might be something that you could present as a motion independently that, and by the sounds of it from other members of the committee, it might be able to work amongst yourselves to come up with one that was acceptable to everybody. So I'm going to rule on that it's outside the scope on this amendment. So with that said, is there any further discussion on Mr. Green's motion?
Mr. Chair, there are three people who wish to speak. I have Mr. Kuzmierczak, McCauley, and Green, but however, Mr. Drouin wanted to intervene at this point.
I just need a point of clarification. I'm having a hard time understanding how a motion to have meetings related to the production of documents is somehow ruled out of context. So I'm just, can somebody give me a rationale so I can go back and explain? Because I'm really having a hard time. A production of documents, and then we are asking for witnesses to come before our before the committee on the very same issues that the motion to produce documents is asking. So it's if it was asking for another study on something completely irrelevant to the production of documents, then I'd say yeah, I agree. But now it's the two are linked. So I'm just I'd love a point of clarification on that.
If I may,
Thank you, Mr. Drouin. Sir, I'm going to just ask the clerk if he can explain it a little bit more clearly for you.
If I may, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Green's motion is being moved in the context of a study already existing before the committee. That is the context of the study of the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the motion seeks to send for documents. It doesn't seek to actually create another study. It could be argued that Mr. Kuzmierczak's amendment, which is to create a new study while the subject is limited, goes outside the scope of the original motion. Amendments to be admissible must be considered within the context of the motion they seek to amend. Now, that being said, the chair has rendered his ruling that the amendment is inadmissible. However, there is nothing that prohibits any member from challenging the ruling of the chair, at which point it will be voted on by the committee. Thank you.
Mr. Kuzmierczak,
we would challenge that decision.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry to intervene. Mr. Drouin wanted the floor again.
Yeah, we would challenge that decision.
If I may just, Mr. Chair, if I may just sort of clarify a little bit my position here. There's no intent whatsoever to supersede Mr. Green's motion. I support his motion fully. This is merely what I'm suggesting is something that is complementary, that builds upon it, and I'm seeking my colleagues' collaboration on this. Again, in the spirit of collaboration that we're trying to establish here, and knowing that this is an important issue. So again, I do not mean to supersede at all his motion or to supersede his production of documentation. It's simply, I believe it complements it. I believe it builds on it, and I'm maybe looking to my colleague for some direction on this, and to join me in this.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzmierczak, and the motion to challenge
If I could, as a point of order, Mr. Chair, I'm unclear that the speakers list in and of itself had exhausted prior to the actual challenge hitting the floor. And I'm just wondering if we would have some time to speak to this prior to getting to that point.
If, Mr. Chair, if I could just explain briefly the procedure. When any member moves to challenge the ruling of a chair, at that point, the ruling of the chair has already been made. That motion is usually non-debatable, and usually the question is put immediately, which is to say the committee gets to take a decision as to whether or not they agree with the ruling of the chair. Typically, the motion is not debatable, and we proceed immediately to the vote. However, so that is what I wanted to explain, as Mr. Drouin has moved that the ruling of the chair be challenged. Thank you. Do you wish me to go to the recorded division on the challenge of the ruling of your ruling, Mr. Chair?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Clerk, I do.
If I may jump in here, Clerk, if you could clearly state what is being voted on and yes or no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd, and to other members who have asked, I will do that. My apologies for the pause.
May I also have a point of order? And for my own clarity on procedure.
If the chair allows it.
Mr. Green, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just so that I'm clear on what we're voting on, through you to the clerk or through yourself, if the challenge is not successful, could the motion then be put independent as a standalone motion that could still be put forward, or does it die in the ruling of the chair?
If I may, Mr.
No, it would. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
So the chair has ruled that the amendment is inadmissible. What we are to be voting on now is the motion, shall the ruling of the chair be sustained? Those members who agree with the chair's ruling that the amendment be inadmissible will vote yay. Those who disagree with the ruling of the chair, who feel that the amendment should be admissible, shall vote nay, essentially to not sustain the ruling of the chair. With regard to Mr. Green's contention about the amendment, Mr. Kusmirczak's amendment would serve as a motion in and of itself, and he could move it independently of Mr. Green's motion, at which point the committee would debate it as a normal motion. The concern is that, moved in the context of an amendment to Mr. Green's motion, you, Mr. Chair, have ruled that it is outside the scope of the motion. So what the committee would be voting on now is the motion, shall the ruling of the chair be sustained? Those who agree that the amendment should be out of order would vote yay, which is the way that you have ruled, Mr. Chair. Those who disagree and feel that the amendment should be admissible and debatable would vote nay. Does this clear up all questions for members of the committee? With your indulgence, Mr. Chair, I will call the roll on the question, shall the ruling of the chair be sustained? Monsieur Drouin.
Je vote contre.
Mr. Johari.
Oppose.
Mr. Kusmirczak.
Against.
Mr. McKinnon.
Contre.
Mr. Weiler.
Against.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes.
Mr. McCauley.
Yes, thank you.
Monsieur Paul Huss.
Oui, monsieur.
Madame Vignola.
Oui.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
On the motion, shall the ruling of the chair be sustained? It is 5 yeas, 5 nays. Mr. Chair, you will have to use your casting vote.
I vote yes.
So therefore, the ruling of the chair is sustained, and Mr. Kusmirczak's amendment is deemed inadmissible by the chair. Now you presumably would return to debate on Mr. Green's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. We will return to that debate on the motion. Do we have any hands up? I don't know whether the ones I'm seeing here are old or whether they are new, Mr. Clerk.
I have Mr. Kuzmierczak, McCauley, and Green.
Okay, that's what I have as well. Thank you. Mr. Kuzmierczak?
Oh, that was just an old hand that I didn't remove.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McCauley?
Oh, thanks. I was just going to suggest perhaps Mr. Kuzmierczak and Mr. Green, after we kind of move forward on hopefully Mr. Green's motion, can just talk separately, and we can get a strong motion put forward on the next meeting or the week after to move Mr. Kuzmierczak's and Mr. Green's co-study, perhaps, or lack of better words, just so we can move on. I think we all seem to be in agreement that we'll do this study. Thanks.
Thank you. And hearing that, Mr. Green.
Mr. McCauley took my sentiment. I just want to be on the record and say that I fully support the spirit and intent, and I didn't want to cause this committee to come to a place where you were challenged in that way, Mr. Chair, which is why I supported your ruling, and I hope that Mr. Kuzmierczak and I and others who are interested in this can get together and bring back something that is really good and workable, because, you know, I support everything that he said. I just wish I had thought about it myself, quite frankly.
Thank you, Mr. Green. And seeing no further hands up for debate on Mr. Green's motion, do we need a vote on division, or do we have hands up? Support.
Mr.
McKinnon
has asked for a recorded division.
Okay, we'll have then Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion of Mr. Green, in his name, Monsieur Drouin.
En faveur.
Mr. Johari.
Support.
Mr. Kuzmierczak.
Support.
Mr. McKinnon.
Oui.
Mr. Weiler.
In favor.
Mr. Lloyd.
In favor.
Mr. McCauley.
Yes, thank you.
Monsieur Paul Huss.
Oui, merci.
Madame Vignola.
Oui.
Mr. Green.
In support, thank you.
Mr. Chair, that is 10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion is carried. It is now just after 6 Ottawa time, and I know that the room is going to be needed for other meetings. Yes, Mr. Kuzmierczak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've got some good momentum going here, so I'd like to propose a motion tonight, because I think I believe that there is support there. I believe that the spirit of collaboration is there, and I think we can get this motion passed tonight very quickly. And so I would like to put forward a motion, Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead, please. We'll give you the floor.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yeah, just not meaning to interrupt. You know, I'd like to vote on this, but just wondering, can somebody introduce a motion like this at this short notice at committee, or does this need to be given 24 hours of notice before we consider the motion?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
Notice is required for any substantive motion to be moved before the committee, except for a motion related to the subject at hand. That caveat, related to the subject at hand, means that if a motion is related to a subject that's currently being studied, it doesn't need to have notice given before it can be moved. When we're dealing with committee business, everything, any motion would be related to the committee's business. As a result, in a committee business discussion, notice, strictly speaking, is not required. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Kuzmirchuk.
Thank you very much. And for the record, Mr. Lloyd, I had the exact same question myself, so I appreciate you asking that. So the motion is as follows, that pursuant to Standing Order 108, paragraph 2, the committee conduct at minimum 6-meeting study on businesses owned by underrepresented groups, Black, Indigenous, women, and persons with disabilities, and their ability to procure from the Government of Canada before and during COVID-19, and that the committee report its findings to the House by May 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzmirchuk. I see some hands up. Mr. Paul Hoos.
Forgive me, Mr. Chairman. I had raised my hand earlier because I have another meeting beginning now, so I'm just going to continue. The problem with our virtual sittings is that we participate, we sit on several committees and several meetings at one and the same time.
Ollie.
Yeah, I thought we just kind of agreed as a group that Mr. Kuzmirchuk and Mr. Green would perhaps get together and propose this perhaps the next week or the next meeting with the intent to have some teeth put in this. I'm a bit disappointed that you would seem to kind of cut Mr. Green out of this without his input. But again, we studied almost half of this in the 42nd Parliament, and the government has sat on its hands and done absolutely nothing toward it. We study for procurement for women-led and women-owned businesses, but also Indigenous-owned. So we've done half of it, and the government's done nothing. So that's why I'd suggested perhaps in good faith, you and Mr. Green, especially because it's Mr. Green's kind of leading this to begin with, would get together and hash out a motion that we could all agree on that would actually have some teeth behind it. And as such, I think perhaps put motion for that we should just adjourn this to allow Mr. Kuzmirchuk and Mr. Green time to work it out for the betterment of the committee and for Canadians in general.
Ms. Vignola.
Très rapidement.
Very quickly. The date suits me. My question pertains to the minimum of 6 meetings to be held. It's a lot of work, I know, but I think that's quite long. A minimum of 6 meetings, especially given that we already studied the businesses owned by women and Indigenous people, so half of the work has already been done. If Mr. Kuzmirchuk wants to table this as is, it's up to him, but he might revise it.
Mr. Clerk, I'm trying to look to see whether we have any hands up or...
Not...
Sorry, Mr. Clerk. Should my earlier motion to adjourn not be instantly voted on, or am I wrong there?
Actually, thank you very much, Mr. McCauley. I was trying to contact the chair to ask him to clarify. I misunderstood whether you were. If you were moving to adjourn the debate, then yes, that question does have to be put immediately without debate or amendment. My apologies if I misunderstood your intention. If your intention is to move that the debate be now adjourned, the committee will have to decide on that.
That's my intent is that give time to Mr. Green and Mr. Kuzmirchuk to work together to build one motion. We're all in agreement we'll do this, but a stronger motion that actually has teeth behind it. So yes, I would move to adjourn so that they have time to present a better one next meeting.
Okay, do we need a show of hands to adjourn?
I would suggest, Mr. Chair, we proceed to recorded division just to make sure, for the sake of clarity.
I think so too. I just cannot see enough hands, so.
On Mr. Kelly's motion to adjourn the debate on Mr. Kuzmierczak's motion, Monsieur Drouin.
Contre.
Mr. Johari.
Against.
Mr. Kuzmierczak.
Opposed.
Mr. McKinnon.
Contre.
Mr. Weiler.
Against.
Mr. Lloyd.
In favor.
Mr. McCauley.
Yes, thank you.
Monsieur Paulus.
Oui, merci.
Madame Vignola.
Oui.
Mr. Green.
Opposed.
Mr. Chair, that is 4 in favor, 6 opposed.
That was defeated. So we will continue with the motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion as presented by Mr. Kuzmierczak?
Mr. McCauley.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Mr. McCauley's raised his hand.
Yeah,
Mr.
I would
McCauley.
just ask that sometime over the next couple of days, or as we move forward on this motion, we think together as a committee and again put some real teeth behind this study, so we don't end up with another one like our SME study that for Indigenous and also for women that had just sat there with the government unacted upon. That's all I'm asking for.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. Mr. Green.
Thank you. And certainly, I want to harken back to the frame that I put in the original text of my demand for documents in terms of teeth and accountability. I believe that it'll give us a really good lead in to what it is we're exactly looking at as it relates to the procurement policies versus what's actually happened. And I do appreciate Mr. McCauley's advocacy around ensuring that I'm included, as I do appreciate Mr. Kuzmierczak's goodwill and wanting to see this move forward. I would share with you this has been a priority for me since gaining a seat on this committee, and I just can't afford, in good faith and good conscience, to have said everything that I've said about the delays and the prorogation to delay this another day. And so, let's move forward with this. And I do want to thank Mr. Kuzmierczak for his thoughtful prioritization. And I also want to recognize to the other work that's been voted on that remains a priority for this committee. And I believe that we can work in good faith in ensuring that the teeth are there because, quite frankly, I bring my own set of teeth with me to every meeting I come to. And as I know that Mr. McCauley and my other friends from opposition, the Bloc and the Conservatives do as well. So I don't think that'll be a problem. I don't think we'll ever participate in a toothless committee. So I'll just say that on the record.
Thank you, Mr. Green. And I think the two hands I do see up, which are Mr. Kuzmierczak and Mr. McCauley's, were previous hands up. Is that correct? Thank you. Mr. Clerk, can we have a vote, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The vote is on the motion moved by Mr. Kuzmierczak. Mr. Drouin.
En faveur.
Mr. Johari.
Support.
Mr. Kuzmierczak.
Support.
Mr. McKinnon.
J'appuie.
Mr. Weiler.
Support.
Mr. Lloyd.
Support.
Mr. McCauley.
Yes, thank you.
Monsieur Paulus.
Oui.
Madame Vignola.
Oui.
Mr. Green.
Strong support.
That is 10 in favor, 0 against, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and I appreciate that, and it's carried. So the floor is I'm seeing no hands up and no indication.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lloyd has his hand up in the Zoom environment.
Sure. Okay, Mr. Lloyd?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the meeting for the night.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Do we require a vote, or is that general consensus with hands up, as I can't see around the room?
There are
one hand up, two.
There are hands up for all 4 members in the room, Mr. Chair.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And so I appreciate this for everyone. We managed to get a lot of things accomplished, and I appreciate that. And it was great to see such indication for people working together. I want to thank the interpreters for staying as long as they did, the analysts for being with us, and the clerk as well for the tremendous work that they're doing to allow this to keep going. We will see everybody on Wednesday evening. And with that, I will say we will be adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you to all the members. Good night.
Bonne soirée.